that we have a monitoring program going on around the Earth, and I thought that we can show actually where these events may take place, where there's a high frequency of UAPs, may correlate with suggested orbital tracks around the Earth. We're dealing with the possibility, there's no guarantee now, there's such a reliance on one contactee, for a landing to take place.
Our guest today is Dr. Eamonn Ansbro, a physicist and astronomer whose career bridges conventional science and the frontier of the unknown. A fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society and Ireland's National Coordinator for Astronomy Education with the International Astronomical Union, he began in meteorology with the UK Ministry of Defence and went on to earn a Master's with distinction in astronomy at the University of Western Sydney and an MA and PhD from the Open University. He built the Kingsland Observatory in rural Ireland, IAU code J62, and launched the initiative known as SETI Kingsland, shifting the search for extraterrestrial intelligence from distant stars to near-Earth space. His work includes long-term monitoring of unidentified aerial phenomena and experimental quantum communication systems aimed at faster-than-light contact. Dr. Ansbro brings rigor and curiosity to questions that push the scientific envelope, and I am thrilled to have him back today. Let me tell you about Dr. Ansbro and why he's one of my favorite people. This is a guy who, since the 1990s, has been focused on technosignatures. We have heard a lot about technosignatures in recent months. And Dr. Ansbro is, to my knowledge, one of the first, if not the first person to focus all of his research efforts and time and intensity on this very topic. And he's been doing it since the 1990s. He's developed an automated camera system, which is made up of 11 different cameras that scans the entire sky, tracks every object, and then cues in on anything that fits a certain behavioral profile, and then flags that for further analysis. And using this process, they have been able to capture some really impressive images. And they've blended this camera technology with spectroscopy and near infrared. There's even a gamma ray detector, which is built into one of these things. And this has been used to great success for a number of years to scan the sky in what they consider high traffic areas. Based on his research, Dr. Ansbro has concluded that at least some percentage of these UAP that we see in the skies above are operating on some kind of an automated system, and that given the right tools, you can predict when and where these things will be. And knowing that, you can travel to these locations and set up the equipment needed to monitor and measure what's going on above, right? And hopefully capture them. So this is what his team has been doing. And recently, he reached out to me to let me know they're moving on to the next phase of their work, which is taking this tech stack, shrinking it down, making it mobile, and then traveling to specific locations that they think are highly likely to be busy with UAP activity at a particular day and time. And what's really unique about this is that they are adding an entirely new layer to their process. And that involves an actual contactee, someone who has been selected specifically for their ability or proclivity or the frequency with which they experience contact with these craft. And the idea is that the presence of this person, just the presence of this person in the experiment, will lead to a more positive outcome, and that they may actually be able to initiate contact with the occupants of one or more of these craft. They're even preparing for the possibility of a landing. I know it sounds unbelievable, I understand, but Dr. Ansbro walked me through this. I had a million questions for him, and he was very generous with his time. We had a lovely conversation. I know you're going to enjoy it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It doesn't cost anything. It only takes a second, and it really is the best way to help us grow. Thank you in advance for watching. I'll see you soon. Now let's go talk to Dr. Eamonn Ansbro. Eamonn, welcome back. It's so good to talk to you again.
Great meeting you again, and thanks for the invitation.
You have been doing excellent, fascinating work in the realm of technosignatures. Can you walk us through what you're up to and give people a little bit of background as well? And then we can kind of stair-step our way into what you're up to today.
Regarding the website, I mean, that we did have a website before some years ago, but it was mainly focused on SETI, and okay, technosignatures was in there, but because of the whole dramatic change in thinking now worldwide to do with the UAP, then we completely refurbished the whole website to focus it totally on the UAP area, because we're convinced now that the UAP is not necessarily extraterrestrial, but it's another intelligence there. So that's what I find very exciting. And some of my colleagues as well, you know. So one of my colleagues, Sarah Garcia Hippolyta, she actually developed the website. You know, you can see by when you look into the website, you'll see a lot of the publications are very much focused on probes within the solar system, so technosignatures, if you like to call it. So therefore, the UAP would come under that arena, technosignatures around the Earth. So, but before that, I was just dealing with probes or technosignatures, if you like to call it, within the solar system. You know, all sorts of techniques to try and find them. You know, not just using the visible, but also infrared techniques as well. I think after the getting that paper published in 2001, that was showing that for the first time that, and again, it was a hypothesis at the time, that we have a monitoring program going on around the Earth. And I thought that we can show actually where these events may take place, you know, where there's a high frequency of UAPs, may correlate with suggested orbital tracks around the Earth. The model would only work actually if it was synchronized with the rotation of the Earth. So at the time, it was a very early model which showed different parameters in it, which, I mean, was it testable? Yeah, I suppose it would be, but we did try it out, but we weren't getting any success in it. Now, actually, we've upgraded the whole model, because we've got an enormous amount of reports from different databases. At the time, we had very few reports, which meant that we were only getting, say, 2 reports that would fit one orbital track around the Earth, which is, you know, it's not really on. You know, you need about 20 or 30, you know.
So when you look, if I understand correctly from, we were speaking earlier and you were explaining this to me, you're looking at these databases you referenced, was it NUFORC and MUFON?
No, NUFORC and Hatch. Hatch was a US one. It was actually one guy that started that back 25 years ago or so. And unfortunately, he passed away a few years back, and everybody was trying to, you know, how do we get it up and running again? Because he was using, I think it was very early tools, program tools, you know, at the time. So there was, but because it was rated to be probably the #1 in the world at the time.
What was the method that was used to collect those reports?
Well, I think he was probably relying, I'm only guessing here, but I think he was relying on not just NUFORC, but also the French, very much international orientated, NUFORC CB. Yeah, that was more North America, but it does take in other countries as well. But we found that Hatch was very much global in its nature, you know. And then the French one was quite good, not up to the level of NUFORC or Hatch, but if you want to refine it better, you'd need European UAP, data. So the French one is probably the best one of the worst, you could say, at the moment.
So am I understanding this correctly? Like you would look at those data sets and you were looking for clusters of sightings within a 20-minute window of time, right? To indicate that something big had happened in that area and a lot of sightings were reported. Is
That's
that right?
correct. Yeah. So you'd have a high frequency of UFO activity, as it would be at the time, and that would suggest actually, what is of interest. Why is it there so much? So uh, taking all the best reports, um, then you could actually refine the model better because you got decent timings. Not something that's out 3 hours or something like that. If it was within about plus or minus 20 minutes, then it would be very useful for the model to work.
And so once you have this sort of rough idea of where there are areas of interest, SETI Kingsland is one of those areas. Is that correct?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, we intentionally relocated. We're trying to find one of the best places in the country, and this was it. And it sure, it has, it's given us very useful data to get to the next step.
And when you had, so at SETI Kingsland, if I understand correctly, you have an automated camera system that you developed internally, your team, that covers the complete sky and tracks objects as they pass through, and then uses some kind of computer system to sort that data. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's an all-sky camera system made up of 11 cameras. Then there's two tracking platforms that are 150 yards apart, which gives you a triangulation. Now, I mean, it's assuming actually that if it is a UFO or something of that nature that's moving, then it triggers the multiplexer in the control system, and then the two tracking platforms start moving into position, tracking the object, and then to get a distance for it as well, besides actually recording much better detail because you're dealing with tele zoom lenses here in each of the tracking platforms.
I think I saw what you had, a 300 millimeter 1.5 lens on a tracker system, or a 200 millimeter. I think I saw maybe one of each. I was going through
Yeah,
the.
yeah. The original ones are back in 2001, and they're still there. Are only 200 millimeter at f2.8, I think it is. Um, But now the new system, this is the mobile system, which I sent you on some images. These are using very good lenses. These would be 300 millimeter f1.5. One of them actually was specifically designed to be in the near infrared because the nature of the camera as well was more into the near infrared. Um,
I don't want to get ahead of your presentation, because you did send over some really interesting slides here. Do you want to walk us through this, and we can kind of just go slide by slide and people can see exactly what it is we're talking about? It's very impressive, the whole tech stack here.
sure. I
I can
don't
share
actually
it
have
on my
slide.
end.
I don't have slides in front of me, so I don't know what I'm going to see. So if you have something there, I can
Let me put up
explain.
what I have, one from your email. Hang on a second. Let me see if this is, and you can take a look and tell me if this is what we want to look at. One moment. Where is my? There it is. We want to share Acrobat. Here we go. Share.
Oh, okay, great. I see it. Yeah. Okay. So there's two core areas here. In order to detect UAPs or UFOs over the period, you need to have some understanding of the characteristics and behavior of UFOs. You can't just put any old camera there, you know. So these were specifically designed and developed in order to detect UFOs and track them and get some data on them. This was the early version, the first ever version actually, which was a permanent all sky tracking system. So it's made up of 11 cameras, which creates a grid of the sky. It's a virtual grid of about 1,200 squares. So each one is, if I'm trying to remember this, I think each one is 2 square degrees, you know. So if anything actually goes into that position and starts moving, then the 2 tracking platforms are triggered and they start tracking it.
So this must have used a lot of processing power back then. I mean, it must have been a massive thing to track objects in the dark with these particular lenses.
Well, it wasn't just in the dark, Clint. It was also in the daytime. You know, UFOs are not conveniently just displaying themselves in the dark.
Of
It
course,
can be in the daytime. So we've actually did get data in the daytime as well. Well, back in those days, 24 years ago? Yeah,
it's a little while. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, whatever was the latest, we got it. You know, it wasn't leading edge. It was something that was affordable, of course, as well.
But were you getting like a video feed, or were these still frame like JPEG images, or coming through one at a time, or how does the system, when it is tracking?
Well, what's convenient actually from a storage point of view at the time, and still is that once the one of the tracking platforms is triggered, then it takes a video. So the video would be at the normal video rate, 25 frames a second. And then from that, we're able to break down the frames if there's anything of interest within that, image.
Okay. So the analyzation happens later. In other words,
yes.
like the system goes active and then tracks the object, records the data, and then later you go through it. I see what you mean. That makes way more sense. So, and you were able to, using this platform, you were able to get some pretty amazing observations. Yes.
Yes, we got a range of, mainly orbs we were detecting, and we have done analysis at the time, back 20 years ago, on the orbs, and I think we show a representation of that on the website. Some of the data that analyzed.
Let me switch over to your website here, and that would be under observations. Yes.
Under observations. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me switch over there so people can see.
I think I had shown on a previous interview with you a lot more images and videos as well of some of these constructs.
Yes, we did, and I just wanted to touch on the stuff that you have on your website so people can see what's available here, because it is fascinating. I mean, these images are unbelievable. Do we know what distance? Let's see, velocity 2 kilometers per second. Do you have any idea how far away these were when they were sighted?
I think we've shown that in the analysis. I don't know if it's actually there.
800 feet in height.
It's height, yeah. So it would be within about 3 kilometers, of the station itself.
I'm just wondering, like, the second image here looks like a distinctly physical metallic 2 objects. I'm wondering if there's any idea of how big they are based on the observations that you have, or if you can even estimate that.
Well, we could only estimate. I think for the orbs, it would be anything from about 1 meter up to, say, 3 to 5 meters, maybe. Depends on the distance. And then regarding the one below there, the dumbbell one, which was a once-off, quite rare to find a dumbbell, and that we could only estimate. Again, it could be some meters in length, so to speak.
Are you able to tell if it's one solid object or if it's 2 objects that seem to appear as if they're one?
Yeah, it's two. Well, we found that it was actually two objects connected together, showing this typical dumbbell type shape.
Right.
But that's all we know. We have nothing else beyond that. We can only deal with uh, observations that we record and then do our very best to analyze them with whatever tools that we have. And
Are
in this
these
case,
two?
we were.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Eamon, but are these two being sighted
No,
at the same time, or is this two
no,
images of
no,
the same object?
no. It's an image of the same object. We've just shown a larger image of the other
Okay.
one, and then if you go down below, you'll see one of those is the bigger one, as you can see there.
Right.
You can see the shape of it.
And how long was this visible for? Do you have information
Well,
on how
yeah,
long the system tracked it?
yeah. Well, it actually says there. I mean, if you look at the analysis, the report. I can't
Oh, is that
exactly read it, but it should show the velocity there and also the angle of where it was moving. Was it from southeast to northwest or whatever? But we have all that in the reports. These are just examples now of some of them. Not doesn't necessarily mean that they're anything outstanding there. But the important thing is we're showing data of what we've recorded, and we're trying to find out in a very neutral way what this is about. You can see by the first one at the top there, yes, an orb, and you can see that movement. It didn't show exactly a 3D or a 3D profile, which again we have to be neutral about it. If this is the data we're getting, we cannot speculate, or should I say we cannot assume things. If that's the way it's coming in, right? Well, then we have to deal with that.
Is it your sense, Eamon, that there are we're looking at different things here, like physical solid craft in one category, and then these sort of plasma type craft or entities is something else, or are they the same thing manifesting in different ways?
Well, the plasma, okay, plasma craft, plasma orbs. You could say okay, they're two different categories, all right. I actually have a published paper with many other authors that came out 2 years ago to do with plasmoids in the thermosphere. And what we were showing that there's an intelligence behind it. Um, Obviously, a very controversial paper. We couldn't even get it peer reviewed. But mind you, we got 150,000 views from scientists around the world. It actually exploded, So, and it
What
was
kind of
also set.
feedback did you get? I'm just curious. Did anybody reach out?
Yeah, we had a number of scientists responded to it, wanting more information on it. They did realize it wasn't peer reviewed. And secondly, because it went viral at the time, well, not just in the well, not exactly in the scientific community, but it was heavily censored. Yahoo actually censored it. Also, anything that was on Reddit where there was discussion was eliminated, deleted. So that gives
Wow.
you a flavor of, when you're getting too hot to the, yeah, to the core of all
Yeah.
this. So that's
Well,
where we're coming from. So
I guess what I'm driving at with that question is you said earlier that you were able to establish that some of these objects are on orbital tracks. If we're looking at two different types of observations, right? If we have plasma things that may represent some other heretofore unknown form of life and some kind of like biology or something like it, I guess, and then
mhm.
physical craft that might have pilots inside them operating them the way we would conceive of a normal spacecraft
Yeah,
operate.
yeah, that's very well put, actually. Yeah, that's the way I would see it as well. The orbs, you're dealing with an intelligence. There's a DNA link to it, which was discovered actually by a Russian guy. Can't remember his name now, some years back. And there's this interaction that can take place between a human and the orb. And this is why, how people sum up orbs, and they're
Right.
already there, but they come into position for people. It's a very much a neutral in interaction, you could say, a transfer of information between the human and the orb.
I
It's quite
imagine
a
it's something like the way people might interact with a dolphin, or
yeah.
or an animal, some other
Yeah, well,
creature.
I think, yeah, I think we're dealing with a very basic type of life form here. We're dealing with the orbs. That's different to the fundamentally different to the plasma craft, where you're dealing with you are dealing with a craft here, but it's not coming in the package that we expect. Um, and I think
You've walked me through this before, the plasma craft concept. I think the way most people seem to conceive of it, at least the way I used to think of it, was you have a physical craft with a highly charged electrical field around it, creating a bubble of what we would look at and see as plasma. Is that
that's correct. Yes.
that is not the same as like a craft that is made out of plasma? We're talking, that's a separate thing, right?
Well, I know that is a separate thing as well, because you do have the other type
Right.
where they can morph and create, depending on the whoever the pilot is, this bioenergetic thing inside,
Right. Right.
that could, for using consciousness to create the shape. And there's a lot of evidence for that, to do with helicopters, to do with, oh, well, yeah, there's objects coming out of the water, looks like a classic flying saucer, and then all of a sudden it morphs into a Cessna 152. So they can do all this type of stuff to be acceptable to the audience. That's what
Or
yeah.
it's a form of camouflage, I imagine, to kind of just slip through as if you're a part of the regular air traffic.
Yeah, I mean, it's of course, I think we're all well aware of the drones. In the last
Yeah.
2 years, yeah, there's a significant amount of them that are, what, UAP. So
Well, I guess underneath all of this, what I'm wondering is if you use an automated system like the one you have designed to track these things in the sky, are you able to classify which ones you're looking at based on their behavior? And from that, can we infer that it is, different types of intelligence that are operating in different ways, or do they share similarities and patterns that maybe that would be interesting to
yeah,
study further?
well, this is purely guesswork, but definitely we're dealing with multiple intelligences here. Now, uh, they could be in concert with each other. Depends on their frequency, resonance that they're at. Um, but that is my guess at this stage.
Have you seen any evidence of coordination between them?
I haven't gone that far.
That might be the next step. So recently, you told me about the last time we spoke a few weeks back. You had elevated this research to the next level, and you were putting together a project to attempt to make contact. Is that right?
Well, yeah. Well, the last time I mentioned to you, we're looking for a double whammy here, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned, well, why do you need to go to the next level? Isn't it good enough just to get the data? And I thought,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I thought, geez, I'm getting a bit bored with this, And it seemed that everybody's open for, the more exciting stuff, communications, which I've looked into over the years, of course. And I thought, well, why not just do the two? I set out in Hesterland there last year to all these scientists, that's the way to go for the UAP research, the combination of the two. That is the astrophysical research with the experiential, bringing in the contactees. And that I feel is the way to go for any of the scientists nowadays.
I'm going to go back to the Acrobat slides that you sent me, because I think some of this stuff is nicely illustrated in here, and maybe we can refer to this. But you're talking about blending the tech stack that you've put together, creating a mobile version of this. Please correct me if I get any of this wrong, and then combining that with another layer of communication involving a very particular type of person that may precipitate a form of communication or contact.
That's correct, yes. So we've designed and developed field instrumentation that's pretty heavy duty stuff. We're not dealing with small cameras here. We're dealing with very application specific type cameras for different functions. And there's just a representation of some of the ones that we have here.
It says for people who maybe aren't looking, it says the next generation of research, second UAP generation research, is to apply a wide range of multi-sensors and simultaneously work with contactees. And you have, I saw in here, I had a question about one of these. You had it set up with a gamma ray detector. It was two cameras side by side. The gamma ray detector?
That's correct. Yeah, that was in the permanent system that we had. Unfortunately, we never actually picked up any gamma rays, and I think the reason being that the UFOs at the time were at such a distance away, there wasn't enough emissions in the gamma ray in radiation area.
So, in your mobile setup, what are you tracking? What can the equipment see?
Yeah, sure. As I say, it's very much application specific to a possible event. What we're hoping actually is to record. One of the tracking systems has visual to infrared imager. That's the 300 millimeter f1.5 zoom. So you can achieve times 30 magnification. In addition to that, there's a spectrograph. It's a transmission spectrograph in plain language. It's a low resolution spectrograph that works with an infrared camera. So you're actually working in the near infrared spectrum, so to speak. So it's not just the visible, it takes in the infrared area as well. So actually that's what you're looking at there with that the near infrared imager and the spectrograph number one.
So this system, and this is part of the mobile suite, the mobile setup?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've practically finished that now, and we have to do some tests with it as well.
And then walk me through the concept here. You're going to have the mobile team. Are you going to have one team, or will it be more than one team? And how many people are we talking about?
We're talking about 9, 10 approximately, broken up into 3 groups, you could say. One is the how should I put it, the technical team dealing with all the imagers. There'd be at least 3 of us for that. Then we have supporting people as well, also doing imaging, but more on the infrastructure and getting basically we have got to survive in remote locations. So we've got to be fed. We've got to have our comforts in could be
hot coffee.
We could have really, but we've had to go into all this, but also one of the things I've shared with some of the guys actually is that when you're dealing with, say, a plasma craft, it's an advantage for the plasma craft to have high ionization field around it. In order to achieve that, I think they might actually create a storm.
To create a highly ionized field around the craft?
Yeah, so in other words, they would generate a storm. So in other words, you'd have a localized storm in your vicinity, but if you're outside it, everything is calm. So.
And what would be the benefit to the craft?
Well, it's actually it's more conducive for the craft to stabilize, you could say. But I'm only guessing now.
Yeah.
I'm not the pilot. I haven't designed any of this, but I'm only guessing from the research I've done over the years that I think this is a quite possibility. So the reason I mention that to you is because we have to anticipate that, and therefore we need to have our comforts if we're going to have absolute storm conditions for doing this. we're putting up gazebos and holding them down, and with all the instruments there and the people there, they've got to be comfortable in stormy conditions. So I think that's what I've as part of the design for this.
That's yeah. I could see just for planning for the unexpected has got to be a huge thing, because once you get all of those folks out to this remote location with all of this highly sensitive equipment, you get one shot to really do this. You better make it count, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like sending out a space probe to Mars. It's got to work for the first time. So it's
Sure.
like you've got all these humans that got to operate in comfortable conditions. So you could say if you're going to Mars physically, humans, well, you need to have all the supporting mechanisms to do this. So, like what we're doing, we need all the supports there of what we're doing to achieve the result. We're dealing with the possibility. There's no guarantee now. There's such a reliance on one contactee for a landing to take place, and also. There's a good chance that it up there would have to use some sort of, in other words, to stabilize the craft itself, you'd probably need a high ionization in the area. In order to do that, you'd have to generate a storm, and it's maybe quite possible that the others up there could do that. If you remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind back in '77.
Oh, yeah.
I'm only thinking about this now. Not that I took the idea from this, but it also, one of the craft, I think it was the mother and the son were in this house, and there was all these funny clouds and stormy conditions appearing out of nowhere. And then, of course, they had the interaction then taking place. I'm not saying it's going to be the same thing as that, but
is there a reason you think it would be something that the craft would want to generate on its own, or is it possible that a storm could form as a byproduct of the way the field propulsion system works in the atmosphere?
Yeah, well, yes, we'll see. I'm glad actually you're expanding upon that. Yeah, because I think actually that is the case. For it to be stable in our conditions, it would have to generate a storm. In other words, to increase the ionization that's there. So yeah, it's either generating it or it's part of the process for it to do its thing, say for a landing.
If it were something that happened as a byproduct of the propulsion system, then I would assume you could take weather data and then overlay that as another set of data points, right? So you could look at your heat map of where you're seeing sightings at what times, and then you could check local weather conditions at the time and see if there were any anomalous storms or weird, I don't know, maybe there would be a way to parse that.
No, we are planning that. Yeah, I mean, we will have actually a whole weather system there operating.
So you're going to have two teams with cameras and two separate or one separate weather team as well, monitoring the live conditions at the location.
No, we're not there to monitor having a team or an individual monitoring the weather. It's just that will be automatic. We will have the right sensors, like anemometers, thermometers,
right.
Relative humidity type gauges. We have all that already, and that would be automatic. We'd see all the graphs and everything as they run through. But I think what you're saying is that outside of that, yeah, you probably would have I was going to say the normal weather conditions, there.
Right.
It's just this could be more localized, and it's created a storm where outside there's no storm at all.
Right. Well, I guess that's yeah.
It's rather like the opposite to a hurricane, the eye of the storm, still.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put myself, I'm trying to imagine this setup and put myself in the position of an observer there. It sounds like it sounds like a thrill. I mean, to just go out into a remote place with all of this gear, and then with the possibility of seeing something truly spectacular. You're going to be tracking all of this stuff in real time. Tell me about the additional layer of working with a contactee or an experiencer. What is that bringing to this, and how do you, I hope that it will affect the outcome?
Yes, well, I find it really important, Clint, to develop relationships with people, particularly with something like this. And that's what I've done. I've gone out of my way, actually. And the others have done the same as well, in order to. And it's paying dividends, because if we didn't do that, I don't think things would develop as much as we're hoping. So, so we're actually have not only a good relationship with this person, uh, but our intentions are really sincere. It's pure intentions, actually. We just want to get the data all right, and for the scientific side of things. But we're also realizing that there's, I think, from this contactee's end, is that he reckons this is all to do with bringing in a new level of awareness onto the planet, to make it known through science, through hopefully maybe to the public in the future. I really don't know. But we have to take all that in consideration. But relationships are really important in this. And it's actually paid to have that relationship, because then you're receiving more information of what to expect.
Right.
So.
But the idea, for people who haven't been following this so closely, is that the presence of a contactee or an experiencer at the location when you're doing this field operation should, at least based on your hypothesis, have an effect on what you see. Is that right?
Yes,
it should cause there to be more activity.
Yes, it's what's interesting is that there is an interesting correlation of the intersection point where this is happening, but also it fits in with the contactee. He said, yeah, he said, funny enough, I think he said to me there, months ago. He said, the location will be remote for him. And I asked where it was, and he told me. I thought, oh God, that is remote. And then I looked at the model, and it just so happens that is an intersection point. And I thought, well, either it's a coincidence, or it's just a separate situation that's occurred.
So this is the contactee that you're working with gave you a location, and when you checked it, it overlaid with an intersection point.
That's correct. Yes.
And this contactee was the one who was in charge of selecting the location. It was based on input they were getting.
Yeah, because their interaction with the others.
Yeah.
It was telling him this is where they want to do it.
So wow. So this is so amazing, and you're among a friendly audience here. Like, people who watch this channel are up to speed on a lot of this stuff. So it's not like we have to really tiptoe through this. I think we can go, kind of directly into the meat and potatoes here. But, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is this is a hypothesis you've been working on for decades now, that you have refined to the point where you can more or less predict with some certainty when and where things are going to happen. And now you've assembled a team with a sophisticated tech stack that you're going to take out into this remote location, set up an observation post, and have a contactee with you who has some kind of direct line or connection to these things. And you are going to be in place, in position, ready to record, ready to capture anything and everything with multiple different types of equipment in real time.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Correct.
That's amazing. That sounds like the most amazing place to be in the world.
Well, that's what I thought as well.
That sounds awesome.
It's like to be honest with you, I never expected it was going to unravel like this.
That's the coolest job. I mean, when someone asks what you do, you can say that. I mean, it's like, it is straight out of a Steven Spielberg movie.
Well, it's funny. I remember back in gosh, what was it? I think it was before I met my wife, actually, sort of 30 years ago, and who was in the medical area, and she didn't really know me, and at the time, I told her what I was doing, and I said one of the things I'd love to do for the future is to make preparations for the spaceship landing. And by the way, she didn't even blink. She said, "Oh, I've got a book for you that will help you on this." And that's
That's how
how.
you know
Yeah, yeah.
who's the
It's like,
one.
yeah, yeah. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Um, I have so many questions. So then, when with this particular contactee that you're working with, what was it about their case or their history that made you think this would be a good candidate to do the type of work that you want them to do?
Well, two things. One is he's done it before and it's been multiply witnessed at a distance, that is. Um, and secondly, he has two skills that I don't have. I mean, we all have it, but mine is not developed like anything like what this guy can do. He has, I would say, nearly 100% telepathic skills, plus 100% remote viewing. And I had been in his presence, like with the others in the team over the months, and he would actually do the communications there and then with us, which I never expected. It would take about 3 or 4 minutes, and then come up with an answer for us. So back in the early days, I honestly thought this was fiction at first. I thought this is, probably, coming from this other, how should I put it, um, thinking that just doesn't fit the consensus reality. And it's like, oh my God, this is incredible stuff. But, he sees to get the results. So let's do it. Let's bite the bullet. We've got to invest time and money into all this. And we'll take a chance on it.
So
So,
when he's there, what is it that this person is going to be doing? I mean, do they have a particular task, or is it something that they'll figure out once things start rolling?
oh no, there's very, very specific this. There's we have a laptop which it's quite an expensive laptop because what it can do is it can translate. Okay, when you type in, the keyboard, it comes out audio. All right.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is, and I think I showed up one of the slides there further on. Um, the idea actually, and I don't have any slides here now, so
I can,
I
if
can't.
you tell me which slide it is, I'll
Oh,
put it up.
oh, okay. If you go down near the bottom,
All right.
it's to
Here we go.
do with you keep going. This being the communications area now. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Again. That's it. That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I put this together because I'm assuming that telepathy is the language of the universe. Look, it's a whole discussion in itself, but I'm actually convinced about that now. And so, if you look at the first stage in the method here, is that you'd have that telepathic link that he would have, say, with whoever he's dealing with, and then he would then type in to the speech, what I call a speech generating system. So then it actually comes out on audio. So you actually hear what is being said, but it's actually him. He's the conduit, so to speak. But he's providing the communication from the other. So it's coming through this way into audio, and then we would do the reverse of that if we have any questions or comments or whatever. Then we can do the reverse of that, and that will go back telepathically then to the other.
So what would be the benefit of having him type it instead of just say it out loud?
Well, I think I felt it was important to have clarity, to have crystal clarity in this, so that, when somebody might talk to you and they may not be fully concise in what they say,
Right.
and you may misunderstand that or whatever. I'd rather actually if somebody puts it on paper or put it onto a computer so we can see it.
Yeah.
So we'd have like 3 or 4 of us are looking at the what's been typed, But secondly, we see the audio coming up. And then from the audio, we got a clear representation of what the communication is. And then we can do the reverse if needed.
Will this individual be isolated from the rest of the group during this period, or are they going to be right there with everyone else?
They'll be right there with everybody else.
And will you be monitoring them, their vitals and heart rate and that type of thing, or is that not part of the plan?
Yeah, it's not part of the plan. Really, Clint, this is a first test.
Sure.
It's like it's testing the theory out, but also testing the communication, if it's there. So the thing is, I've had to anticipate that we are going to have communication and assume that there's going to be a landing. Mm-hmm. Now, you could take those two things out of the equation and still we would get good results, So that's the reason for, going into it further. UAP, second generation UAP is a goal.
If this bears fruit, which we think it will, then you would go to the next step, I guess, and expand it and try to repeat the process.
Yeah, and there may be many other locations around, say, the world. Well, Europe would be easier to deal with. And secondly, really, it's not just testing the theory, but you know how things can go into different directions that you didn't expect, and realizing, oh my God, we're actually communicating now. So we better get our act together in the communications area. What are they going to say? Are we just going to be dumbfounded and it's all happening to us and we just like, rather like a cat or a goat out on the street, it's staring at you. It's like, are we in a state of shock? It's like we don't know what to do. We're in a, how should I put it? We're in a state where we can't do anything. We're just so amazed with the whole thing that we can't even function.
Yeah, you have to almost prepare to succeed because what if you do? So what is the protocol? What I'm assuming you've given thought to this. What happens if contact takes place, and how does that work?
Okay, well, I haven't done this yet, but my guess is that the number one thing actually in selecting the right people for this, for the teams. So I actually went through this previous interview with you, and it's all down to frequency, resonance, heart energy. I've been approached by others around Europe whom I know, say, "Oh, can I be at it? Open up my heart to the whole thing." Well, it's not. It's like, look, let's do the first test and see how we do on this.
Sure.
It's too complex, and so many individuals flying in from all over the place.
Yeah, then they're going to want to grill hamburgers, and you're going to have a whole party on your hands.
Jesus. Yeah, I know.
So if you have everyone there, the contactee is there, everything is working, all systems are go, and then if contact were to take place, what would you expect? I mean, you mentioned a landing. That would probably be a step further than just blinking lights, right? So where in there are you hoping that you'll fall, and what would you expect to see if something happens?
Well, as I said, we've designed the instrumentation for it's like for a CE2, so to speak.
Yeah.
But also, it's in a position to do a CE3 as well, and a CE4, you could say.
Okay, so explain that for people who don't know what that is. CE2, 3, and 4.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. This was Alan Hynek came up with this classification back 40 years ago or something, where close encounters of the first kind is when you have, say, an object. You can't distinguish what it is. Could be an orb or something like that, just a light, like a star. And then at close encounters of the second kind, you can actually see structure. Could be a classical flying saucer or cigar or something like that, be a CE2. And then the close encounters of the third kind is when you have not only the construction of the object, that is, say it was a classical flying saucer, but you actually can see the occupants, inside. Yeah. And there are cases like that. And then you have close encounters of the fourth kind is when you have the landing taking place. Now, mind you, close encounters of the third kind, you can still have the landing taking place. But in the fourth kind, you have the occupants in the craft, but now they're coming out of the craft. They're actually initiating contact with the humans, so to speak. So that's close encounters of the fourth kind. And of course, you probably know, Clinton, a lot of people would know about close encounters of the fifth kind, but that's the opposite. That's the human initiated contact. All right.
Which this, I guess, would kind of be a mix, right? I mean, it would be, you are, in a sense, initiating contact by just being there.
Yeah. So we're relying on our conduit, the contactee, for that. And it may well, I mean, if it happens, the communication, telepathically, of course, it might also affect us as well. We might get a telepathic link there. I mean, we do have those faculties as human beings, which have been denied for a long time, as I understand, until the telepathy tapes came out.
It's interesting how that's kind of, there's no getting away from that. As much as people want to avoid the whole concept of telepathy when it comes to UFOs, it is pretty much front and center, isn't it?
Well, I mean, telepathy is natural. It's normal. I mean, marriage couples, you go in resonance and you have you're thinking of the same things. You come out, oh, I thought of that just 1 second ago.
My wife and I do it all the time. Or like a school of fish or a flock of birds.
Yeah, so it's normal actually with people do telepathy it may not be developed 100%, but and
it does make sense, at least to me, as a survival mechanism. There would be a positive sort of pressure to develop some kind of nonverbal form of communication, right? If you're a tribe of hunter-gatherers moving around from place to place, if you have some way of if somebody sees danger and can communicate that to someone 200 meters away, that's a really helpful skill. I would imagine, that's been in play for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So if contact were to take place, I mean, I suppose it could happen in multiple different ways. Telepathy would be one, of course, flashing lights or sound or something. It could be something else, a landing. You say you're prepared for this. If a landing were to take place, what happens? Is there someone in the team who is designated as the walk up to the craft and put up your hand guy, or?
Yeah, I think it's more of a natural situation. You don't want it sort of rigid and by the book or something. I feel
sure.
It's all right about the Apollo mission. Everything was by the book, of course. But what you're dealing with here is unknown intelligences here, and in that light, there's a reciprocation going on. So with the landing, I mean, I'd even ask for the full thing. That is, to meet them,
Yeah.
if it came to that. And I have put out actually through our conduit that there's a safety factor, there's a security and so forth. Apparently that will be addressed, I understand, So
do you have preliminary communications that indicate you are going to see something? I mean, it sounds like that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's only in recent times, because of all the development of the relationship and relationship with the others, and that this has been very helpful actually to steer us in the right direction for each step. That is,
So,
but 6 months ago that wasn't the case.
I don't want to, not to put too fine a point on it, but just so people can follow who are listening. You're talking about, you refer to this individual who has displayed telepathic ability as a conduit. Has this person, for the last few months, you say that you've been working with them, they've been the intermediary between you and the others as you construct this experiment? In other words, the experiment is being built to order, sort of?
Well, not really, no.
I don't know if I'm phrasing it well enough what I'm saying, but are you getting like pointers and tips on what to have and what to do? And, is that the level of communication that we're talking about?
Yeah, well, it'd be fairly basic stuff. It would be just for the humans that are getting involved in this, that they need to develop their remote viewing skills. That came through. Not necessarily the telepathic side. So that, and also the frequency was very important. What frequency are we dealing with? That is them dealing with us. you know what. And I do know there has been due diligence has taken place with some of us, you know.
I wonder about.
If you understand what I mean by that, that's to do with the frequencies.
I think I do, and I guess my question regarding the frequencies would be: is that something that each individual person has to sort of understand and figure out for themselves, or was there guidance offered on how to be in the right frequency? If I'm
no guidance at all. You just need to how should I put it? You'll know yourself if you're the right person for this.
Yeah.
Because if you're not the right person and you're there, it's going to blow your electrical system. That is your whole body system. That's my guess. There's ways of addressing that, of course, but you're talking about a massive consciousness expansion taking place, maybe for one or two individuals, which they're not able to integrate that reality when it happens. You could be made, if you're not the right person, and again, I'm only guessing here, but you could be put to sleep. You're not ready for this yet.
Yeah.
Yes, it's happening, but you're knocked out. Actually, I'll just share this with you. I met Leslie Keane. Keane, yeah, the lady the journalist who.
She's great.
Yeah, I met her back in the year 2000, actually, when I was in California, and she was chasing after me and another guy because she heard the scientific research I was doing to do with all this, and I was telling her that in the one of the cases I was dealing with out of the 150, that the person that had an encounter was put to sleep. And she said, well, that's really interesting because there was a film crew that went to Mount Shasta, and there was this green object that came, was around Mount Shasta, and the film crew of made up of 7 or 8 individuals are all put to sleep. They weren't ready for this. So I thought that was interesting.
Let me see if I can, if we can peel this onion a little bit more, because I feel like I intuitively have a sense of kind of where you're coming from here, but I just want to tease this out for people who may not. When we're talking about the difference in frequency, how are we talking about something that can be measured with instrumentation, or are we talking about what some people might call the woo-woo definition of frequency, like sort of a intangible, spiritual kind of a thing?
No, I'm not into spiritual and intangibles and all this stuff. All right, I'm only interested in evidence.
Yeah,
and the evidence for this, a very basic form of measuring the frequency of the person, is using tuning forks. If you're familiar with the chakras of the body, there are certain frequencies from each of the chakras, I think. I mean, this is not my area now, but we all have, as human beings, we have a biofield around us, so it's giving off a certain resonance. Now, I understand that you can actually measure, not just with tuning forks, but there are other methods of measuring the biofield around a person to determine the frequency. I had spoken to a person that's expert in this area, who's a metaphysician here in Ireland, actually. And I asked her, I said, what's the average, with human? She said it's about 325 to 375 hertz. And she said there can be extreme exceptions where it's way over 1,000 hertz. And that would be a really high frequency, which would indicate they're very much awakened type of person, so to speak. They wouldn't have all the, how should you put it, the whole clutter of fear and everything else. They wouldn't be laboring on that, where other people would be, so to speak. So that would make sense. So their frequency is obviously much higher all the time.
So your starting point for, well, maybe not the starting point, but one of the foundational kind of principles here is that there is a frequency that must match or at least be within a safety envelope for interacting with these beings, and that if someone is not in the right frequency and their bioelectric field comes into contact with whatever these other beings are putting out, it could literally short circuit their nervous system and they could just black out.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's a whole different I hadn't really given that much thought until you spell it out this way. And so you have to, so do you test the people on the team? I mean, are you measuring what their frequency is? And, is that something that you go into this with that in mind?
Yeah, I actually have how should I put it, a person that I know very well, who's a shaman, more than a shaman. And without letting anybody know, I would ask, well, what do you think of so-and-so,
Yeah.
And that person would say, oh, yeah, amazing heart energy, frequencies are really high, and that's good enough for me. If it's somebody that's in a complete fear all the time, well, there's no point being at this,
you don't want somebody freaking out on you. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're not going to have any major medical equipment there, We're not into that. I mean, we'll obviously have basic first aid, but crikey, we're not there for,
I'm just thinking about you're going to probably have so many things on your mind in the moment of it. Anything else would just be a distraction. But I would just be interested in tracking heart rate and, I don't know. I feel like the person who's the telepath should have one of those caps on with all the wires coming out of it, like in a movie, hooked up to a machine. It's my non-technical way of thinking about it. But I almost feel like that you're talking about doing the sort of guerrilla version of the Close Encounters thing, where they have everybody. I mean, that's really what you're doing. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. But
cameras rolling and people, and then if there is something, it could be a light show, or there could be. I mean, you think about the way they communicated with sound in that movie and the music, and when you're thinking about what could potentially happen, are you anticipating that it could be all kinds of different mediums, or are you focused specifically on telepathy as the medium through which this communication would take place?
Yeah, well, the reason for the telepathic side is that the person that we're dealing with, the conduit, just does everything telepathically. There's nothing. I understand there's nothing verbal coming from the others. It's all telepathic. So that's the reason for going this route.
So in other words, you're not expecting it to do some kind of Morse code light communication or something else. It's going to more than likely be a telepathic thing through this conduit, because you've been setting it up this whole time with that.
Yeah, I have thought, well, before I even met this person, I had thought of Morse code. Actually, I do have a license for that, radio ham, and my wife has a radio ham license as well for including Morse code. So we know how to use these things. I mean, I think we're dealing with our first test. We've got to test the theory.
Yeah.
And then the communications area is just jam on the bread, as they would say. If that works, then we've actually circumvented or shortcutted a lot of stuff here. It's not just a theory, but we're dealing with an intelligence here, and it can communicate as well. Now, I'm not treating this as if it's like an us and them situation. I've had to realize that there's a whole relationship one has to put into position, rather like with this contactee as well. So likewise with whoever we're dealing with up there, there's also the relationship as well. It has to be, how should I put it? It's reciprocal. It's a relationship, even though it's invisible to me at this stage.
Let me ask you this: assuming it does go off and you have contact as you expect, do you have any idea of what you might want to say? Have you got a list of things that you would want to communicate, so that you might be able to get some? If you could ask a question and get an answer, have you thought about what question you could ask? Let me put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah. No, I mean the
Like,
first thing is
would you
that
stair step from "Hi, how are you" to "Would you land 200 meters over there?" And then, you know what I mean? Like, is there a
I
protocol?
know, I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah. We actually have asked for that, just for our convenience,
Sure. Well, you might as well, right?
particularly in a remote area where it's like, oh my God, it's going to be dreadful. Your conditions will be in,
Preferably
you know.
closer, not too far away. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
yeah. So, sorry, what was your other question? Was it to do with the communications again? Was it
Well, I guess I'm just wondering, since we're kind of spitballing here, but let's assume everything goes as planned, and you have contact, and then suddenly you have a call and response, and you get a response, and now you're in a position where they're looking at you going, well, would you like to ask us a question? And if that were to happen, do you have a list of maybe things that you would want to ask, and would they be specific actionable type things that you could see there in the moment, like flash green lights 3 times so we can verify you're getting this command?
Hmm.
Or would you be asking them, like, please set down 150 feet over there in that clearing and then come out and we'll walk over and say hi?
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
specific do you get?
Well, I wouldn't. I think at this stage we won't be dealing with any superficial questions. I think it'd be more mature,
Yeah.
developed questions, and it's not because I suspect actually what this is going to be about, um, and so therefore there won't be any stupid superficial questions. It's not that arena that we're dealing with here. I think it's given us enough time to think about what we're not the specific questions. We haven't thought of those questions. I haven't developed any questions at all. I think it's be more a heartfelt situation.
Mhm.
Or on the planet here, there's, do you know, Clint, I think all these UFOs and intelligence, they know full well what's going on here. It's like,
Oh my
you
gosh.
I mean, I'd be shocked if they don't know what's going. Of course, they know what's
Of
going on.
course.
So therefore, I think the maturity of who is going to be there. Well, the group, which they're all really wonderful people I'm dealing with. They're all friends of mine as well, not just colleagues. And that's important. And then with the contactee, he's realizing that over the months that we're it's really could say quite a special team. There's no arguments about what we're dealing with. It's like they realize only after a while that, oh my God, this is for real. That this
Yeah.
guy has done it before, but it was now it's going to be done on a scientific arena. So, not just, I mean, you could supersede the whole model altogether, and it was more important the communications in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
I think you're much farther along than most people even think is possible. I think for the average person who's just finding their way into this topic and getting interested in it. So it's fascinating to watch this process unfold. Um, I had one more question I wanted to throw at you, but it just slipped away. And it was a good one too. Um, it'll come back to me. But what would you like people to know who are following this? As they follow along, how far away are you from executing the test? And do you have any a rough idea of when that's going to take place? And how can people
yeah, just
stay
I've
up
got it
to
right.
date?
Yeah, I think it'd be early 26 when we have hopefully the results, and this will be a first test. It's a test by us doing this for the model, for hopefully the communications, the landing, and all that, but also the other, as I understand it, will be a first test for them. I mean, I'd be surprised if it isn't the first test because my understanding that no one's actually done this before. So, I mean, I have been looking around, like space, what do you call it, Skywatch and all this, but that's very
Yeah.
different. It's a different intent, which I'm very unhappy about. It has nothing to do with the blood, nothing to do with the earth as well. I'm seeing it for humanitarian. By the way, I've done humanitarian work in the past, helping other tribes. In my wife and myself, we go to distant places, and it's another story in itself. A lot of stuff we've done back in the past like that. So we're coming from a whole different holistic approach, humanitarian
Sure.
approach to this, not for gaining, whatever, assets.
Yeah,
And
not to get your hands
make
on
it
the technology.
no, that's not where we're coming from.
I think that reminds me of my question was about that. It was it brings to mind this whole, which I think is the most important aspect of this. Who speaks for Earth? Like you said, the Skywatcher people, the military. Who has the maturity and the imagination and the patience to interact with the others in a way that's not provocative and that's peaceful and that's it's an impossible ask almost. It's such a new endeavor and such an amazing possibility. I'm sure that's not lost on you at all. You seem like you've thought quite long and hard about this, but do you feel that sense of responsibility if you do have the opportunity to exchange information back and forth?
Oh yeah, responsibility is a big one here, but also the responsibility of, future. Well, as I understand it, that we could actually do this in the future as well at many locations, but there would be a responsibility for doing this.
Yeah.
I can imagine people like in next year, if we do get the results with all this, that said, oh, what about our location? Where's the closest? It's not like that. This is not fun and entertainment. This is serious stuff, and I don't entertain anything that's like that. This is not for your. I don't know. There's a maturity that's required dealing with the earth and whoever we're dealing with. That's where I'm coming from. I'm not interested in, entertainment. And I mean, I've come across guys back in the past who've, to do with CE5, and said, "Oh yeah, that'd be great," and they go there and they start freaking out when when the ball of light comes across. Back in, what was it, '97? I remember I was using the model at the time in early days, but. So yeah, it's maturity and responsibility are the key things actually for success, I think.
To set the conditions. Yeah, I understand what you mean. It's almost like you have to, and that is an interesting question in and of itself, because if it becomes public knowledge that this works, then I guess the next question is how many people are going to try it, and what are the effects of that? And if there is some type of formal contact, I guess the way I always imagined it would be is through some official, whatever that means, like the United Nations, some kind of like official body that would represent the interests of the people of Earth. But there really is no such thing, is there? I mean, is there any type of a group that's even set up to do anything like that?
No, there isn't. The closest thing actually is in the radio area. That is, if you get a signal from an ETI, and you have what's called the SETI Permanent Committee, which has their annual meetings. And if a discovery is made of a signal from, some civilization way out there somewhere, then they have the remit to go to the United Nations. This has happened. We've made a discovery. It's been confirmed by all these other institutions and that. But this is totally different. I mean, this is, you're not, I don't know where you would start after this, what the ramifications would be. I'd say the ramifications would happen to some people on the planet on a subconscious level, because if you're familiar with Rupert Sheldrake's research to do with morphogenic resonance, and also the interconnectedness of everything around, then it makes sense. So some people could be affected by this without them even realizing it, on a subconscious level, which then trickles into the conscious state, so to speak.
I have a friend of mine who recently mentioned something to me that sounded very intriguing, and it was this idea that astronauts who experience the overview effect, it has something to do with getting outside of the, just getting into orbit and being exposed to some other energy field outside of, Earth's gravity. There's some kind of other thing that may interact with them and then give them this sort of enhanced perspective on humanity and our role in the universe. Or maybe it is just as simple as seeing the Earth from space and realizing that it's all just one little ecosystem, one little biosphere.
Just at this juncture, because I'm a human being, I have to get to the toilet.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So, take your time.
I don't know about any other.
I'll hit pause.
There, okay, back again.
Welcome back. This might be a great time to just go ahead and wrap it up, unless there's anything else that you wanted to get into. Do we cover most of the key points?
Well, you have actually, yeah. Besides, instrumentation, communications, yeah. I think we've actually done it, yeah.
Well, as we wrap up here, Eamonn, what would you like to leave people with? Where can they go to follow the work that you're doing and find out more?
Well, our website would be the one to find out, to familiarize people actually about the research we're doing. After that, I think if we're successful with the event, it'll be a first test. It has to get through the scientific community. That could be difficult. I just don't know at this stage. We do actually have 2 confirmed invited scientists who are fairly well known in the field, who were happy to do the analysis from the data. So that's where we're at.
Who do you have? Can you tell us, or is it confidential?
Yeah, I can tell you. We've got Dr. Massimo Teodorani from Italy. He's done a huge amount of work to do with Hestilin. He's got a lot more expanded in his thinking than normal scientists, which I've known him for at least 25 years. He's been to our place here a number of times over the years. So that's one. The other person is Jakob Haj Misra. He's the head or the director of the Marble Space Institute, I think it is. It's in Washington State.
Okay.
So that's Jakob. He was actually one of the speakers, Clint, at the Sol Foundation in Italy just a week and a half ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that just wrapped up it was in Italy, right?
Yeah, so he's he's on board with us for obtaining data, from this hopefully future event.
Well, this is very exciting, Eamonn. The website is SETIkingsland.com for anybody who wants to go check it out. I will link to it in the show notes. And if you want further information, you can reach out via the website, or you can contact me and I'll send you everything that I can. But Eamonn, thank you so much for coming back to walk me through what you're up to. This is so cool. I'm very excited to see where this goes next.
You're welcome. I'm just delighted to get the invitation again. There's not many outlets for this, Clinton, I can tell you that, this kind of work. Maybe it's too, I've got a feeling it's probably too much for some people,
I think it's too much for some people, but it's just enough for us. I think it's perfect. So I know we're going to be excited to share this with our audience. I know you're going to have a lot of people who are going to follow up with you, and we'll have many questions. So I'm sure we can get you back to answer some of those. But in the meantime, Eamonn, I'll let you get back to your work. I know you have much to do. Thank you so much for carving out the time.
Thank you so much, Clint, for the invitation.